What do you think the media's role plays in sort of establishing the way that the Second Amendment or firearms ownership is viewed in our culture, in our society?
Well, yeah, interesting question. It's pretty clear, right, that the quote unquote mainstream media has, has a anti-gun bias. The stories they report are always misleading. They're always one-sided. They don't paint a full picture. And that's, the New York Times, the Washington, LA Times, et cetera, major news broadcasts. So it's very frustrating because there's a very anti-gun bias. But every once in a while, you'll be surprised and you'll see a story like in the New York Times recently that talked about like how people are buying guns and want to take classes, how to be able to safely and responsibly use a firearm in self-defense. So every once in a while they throw a curveball, but there's no doubt that the legacy media is biased. The good news is that that's not how people get their news these days.
Yeah,
increasingly, right? That people are getting it on their phone or other sources. So what was the only source of news when I was a kid? I mean, that's not the case anymore, right? So there are, in some ways, I think that's forced some to moderate their view and be more balanced. But I also think for some, it's driven them to be even more biased.
It could be because we were kids, but I certainly remember the news being much more objective. Again, maybe it's that I was just naive as a kid, but now you can't watch the news. I shouldn't say you can't, but the vast majority of news programs you watch have such an agenda that it's completely slanted this way or completely slanted that way. And really, you don't know what to believe. The people that watch this believe that and vice versa. So yeah, that fair and balanced reporting is difficult for sure.
So for me, I like to consume news from a variety of sources and make my own decisions, right? So, but you have to, you recognize if you're picking up the New York Times, there's an editorial bias in the reporting. I mean, you expect it on the opinion pages, but you see it in the reporting, and you just have to look at, people that work at major media and what their political affiliations are and who they give money to. And it's overwhelmingly Democrat. That's not to say Democrats are bad, but I mean, it's can't be questioned that at the national level anyway, the Democratic Party is anti-gun in their leadership. There's no question about it. I mean, you just have to look at the bills that are introduced and by whom they're introduced, and it tells you what you need to know.
Another thing you don't hear of very often, but I know, I don't have the stats to prove it, but I know that having a firearm without firing a shot has saved a lot of people, prevented a lot of situations from developing to the point that someone is injured seriously or killed. But you don't read about that. You don't read about very often that someone breaks into a single mother's house and the gun that she uses, maybe even without firing a shot, hopefully without firing a shot, to prevent this person from endangering her or her family. Those are legitimate things that are happening on a fairly frequent basis that you just don't hear of.
That's exactly right. There's an old adage in the media, right? If it bleeds, it leads. So the crime that didn't take place because somebody was able to, display that they had a firearm and the person didn't do the attack doesn't make it into the newspapers, right? And there are studies out there, Kleck and Lott and others, that have demonstrated, the incredible number of times firearms are used defensively without a shot being fired to prevent crimes from occurring in the first place. And so you always hear, just one side of that story, right? Like so many people were shot or so many people were killed. You never hear the other side in the media, the other side about how many crimes were prevented in the first place.